What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. Today, guys, we are here to do the top 10 studio and boutique labels of 2022. So yeah, we're gonna rank them. We're gonna rank studios. We're gonna rank boutique labels together in a top 10 list based on performance, based on quality, based on just overall like output, like consistency. I've got several criterias that I take into account when I do this. This is a very hard and difficult video to make because we really got a lot of really great stuff this year from everybody. Like everybody, it felt like was knocking it out of the park at one point or another. Just some I feel did it better than the rest, and we'll cover it all here today. I've got plenty of examples. Well, if you could see my table right now, it is full of amazing physical media releases that came out this year. So yeah, we're doing studios, we're doing boutique labels. Of course, I'm not familiar with every single boutique label. There's several that you're gonna be like, I can't believe you didn't mention this one, Ken. But I feel like I've got most of the heavy hitters, most of the big top players here to talk about here today. But there's always so many. There's like 70 boutique labels at this point. Now the studios, there's only like 6 main ones. I can't really think of any other ones because they've all kind of melded into each other at this point. So that's kind of easy. But when you get into the boutique stuff, there's so many directions that you can go in. So I did my best, guys. I did my best. But look, before we get into it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment down below your thoughts. What were some of your top labels of 2022? You can rank them or you can just list them in the comment section below. Like I said, there's so many directions you can go with this in terms of ranking. This was a very difficult list to make. And I will say, this is a unique video. Like I don't see a lot of people on YouTube like ranking the studios and the labels, but yeah, look, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, let's get into it. Let's start with the honorable mentions. I do want to mention Synapse, the label that I can never pronounce their name. They put out some good stuff this year. They really did. They just didn't put out enough to really qualify for my list, but they put out some great releases like Tenebrae on 4K, Phenomenon on 4K, Massacre at Central High, Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. Those are great Blu-ray releases. So they did some good work this year for sure, just not enough. Also, Blue Underground, did some great 4Ks this year. Toolbox Murders, God Told Me To. I've been hyping this one up all year. I love this 4K release, but they really didn't do anything new. Like they just did a few 4K upgrades and that was it. So Blue Underground, I hope to see something new from you in 2023. So yeah, honorable mentions, little shout out to Blue Underground. They do great work. Like their 4Ks are always great. And this one kind of surprised me when I got into it because this is a major studio label and they did not make my top 10. And we're not talking about Disney. We're not talking about Disney. They came up just now. They won't come up again. But Universal did not make my list, and that really surprised me because they came out with 2 of my favorite box sets of the year with the Alfred Hitchcock Volume 2 collection and also the Universal Monsters Volume 2 collection as well. That just speaks to the fact that like we really got some amazing stuff from a lot of different studios. And I feel like, these were great box sets, but other than these, like they did some cool like newer movies. Like I know The Northman got hyped up. That 4K was really good. Ambulance, I think, got hyped up. That 4K was really good. Other than that, it felt like Universal was pretty quiet for the majority of the year. They were doing some weird 4Ks like Doom that kind of just felt like they've run out of ideas and stuff to put out on 4K, even though they've got plenty of stuff that they could bring back. So they were doing like Doom on 4K. So I don't know, Universal, it just felt like they had a little bit of an off year other than these, which are kind of their heavy hitters from year to year. I'm sure somebody's going to comment like a couple other big releases that I failed to mention, but when I was looking at everything, guys, I'm looking at the whole year here, and Universal just fell short for me. But it's still a great studio. I'm looking forward to what they do in 2023 for sure. Now let's get into it. Let's get into my top 10. I'm going to try to cover this as quickly as I can. Otherwise, it's going to be an hour-long video if I really get into this stuff. So coming in at my number 10 is Arrow Video. And this is another one that kind of surprised me. But again, when I really looked at it and broke it down, I was like, it's got to be Arrow Video. Like I don't know, they put out some really good stuff this year. They put out Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is a movie that I love from my childhood in 4K. Couldn't get it in the States, had to import it, which I have an issue with, but I understand rights issues and stuff like that. But this was a great release, a lot of new special features, and I watched it the other night. It looks phenomenal in 4K, the best I've ever seen it. I think the last time I watched this movie was on freaking VHS, for crying out loud. So I definitely saw this movie in a whole new light. on 4K. But this is a great release, and of course they do these amazing big box sets, but Wild Things was a really cool movie that they put out on 4K this year. They also did some re-releases, RoboCop on 4K, American Werewolf in London in 4K. So, and I mean, Arrow Video, they did some really cool Blu-ray releases like Hell High. They did Edge of Sanity. I've talked about all this stuff in my top 10 Blu-rays of the year. You know, just some cool Blu-ray like Shock and stuff. So Arrow Video, they did good work this year. They had some cool box sets also that came out this year. So I'm not saying they didn't do good work, but it just felt like they were kind of front-loaded this year. Like all of their great stuff was in the beginning part of the year, and then it kind of just felt like they petered out a little bit. They did Flatliners in 4K, and then they felt like they took a couple months off, and then they came back and did Videodrome in 4K, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So I love Arrow Video. I'm really excited for what they do in 2023. I always get excited for the Arrow Video announcements because, again, they just do quality work. They do a lot of quality work, and I'm always excited for Arrow Video. But this year they made it to, they were my number 10. They were my number 10. It definitely wasn't as strong of a year for Arrow Video as 2022 was for Arrow Video, in my opinion. So let's get into my number 9, and let's talk about a boutique label that doesn't necessarily deliver on the quantity, but they damn sure deliver on the quality, and I've got to shout them out and put them in the number 9 position, and that is Second Sight. So they released 2 of my favorite 4K releases all year, like top 5 level 4K releases. Even though this didn't make my personal top 5, it could have. But The Witch on 4K was an amazing release. You got so many like booklets and stuff in here, and it just looked amazing on 4K. You also had Drive, which I didn't bring over here, but the Drive box set they did was just amazing. Second Sight is really just firing on all cylinders right now. They also did Dog Soldiers on 4K as well. They did Monster and Tangerine, really cool like Blu-ray box sets. So Second Sight is knocking it out of the park with everything that they do. And they did a lot of other like Blu-ray sets as well. And this year they're supposed to have Texas Chainsaw on 4K. They're supposed to have Hitcher on 4K. So I'm really optimistic for the future of Second Sight. And they just had a great year, in my opinion, delivering quality releases that when they come out, when you get them, you remember them, and they just really stand out. So I had to put Second Sight as my number 9, but again, couldn't put them up any further just because they didn't have the consistency that some of the other labels did. So coming at number 8 is our favorite boutique label to hate on and to talk crap about, and that is Scream Factory. Scream Factory is my number 8. So look, we dog on Scream Factory a lot. They mess a lot of stuff up. I just did my top 10 controversies of 2022, and I think they were involved in like half of them. So they messed stuff up a lot, but they also put out a lot of stuff, and this was the year of the 4K re-releases for Scream Factory. They did new movies in 4K as well, but they did a ton of their movies in 4K for the first time. Like they had previous Blu-ray releases and they remastered them in 4K. They did that a lot this year. They were doing like 4 or 5 releases every single month. So they definitely had the consistency to a fault at some points. And again, it felt like there was kind of a fever pitch with Scream Factory this year where everybody just got so mad at them. I think it was the Child's Play 4Ks, which by the way, those were great releases as well. But I think that a lot of people forget, like they get lost in all of the negativity of Scream Factory, and they forget that they actually deliver really great releases every single year that we all get excited for and that we all love when they come out, and they deliver. And you know, here's just a few of them right here. We had Carrie on 4K, which I thought was amazing. We have Return of the Living Dead come out on 4K, which looked absolutely incredible. It was a great release from Scream Factory. Army of Darkness, maybe arguably the best Scream Factory release of the year transfer-wise. This looked amazing. Had all the cuts in it. Not all in 4K, but it has all the cuts in this set. I know that was a point of controversy for some people as well. But this was an amazing release, Army of Darkness. You had Alligator on 4K, which is my number 1 Scream Factory release of the year. I love this release with great new special features on here with Bryan Cranston as well. And, you know, Black Christmas was another great release. And then you had the Child's Play 4Ks. You had Escape from New York on 4K, which I love that. Candyman came out on 4K. They just delivered consistently throughout the year and just put out stuff that we all got excited for. You can't deny, guys. You love horror movies. Scream Factory is always giving you something to get excited for. Now, and I think that goes into why we're so let down and why we're so pissed off sometimes when they don't deliver, because we get so hyped for their stuff. So say what you want about them. And again, I could have maybe put them up a little bit higher, but I think all of the negativity surrounding them and all the mistakes that they make, you know, I think that 8 is a good spot for Scream Factory. I think 8's a good spot for Scream Factory. But again, if you want to, you know, again, Scream Factory, Shout Factory, all the same label, but Shout Factory put out new 4Ks. They put out a ton of new Blu-ray Blu-rays in the Shout So Like line. So just a lot of good stuff coming out from the Shout Factory camp. Now let's go ahead and get into my number 7, and this might upset some people but again, this is a label. Sometimes I have to go at this from personal experience and perspective. And I know they put out a lot of stuff every single month, and I didn't really hear anything negative about them all year, really. But Criterion comes in at my number 7, and I love Criterion, but I just don't buy a ton of stuff from Criterion. I usually wait for the sale, so I don't buy a lot of stuff new. But they did have some amazing releases this year that definitely got me to buy them the week that they came out. They had Shaft on 4K this year that came out. This was an incredible release by Criterion. They have Raging Bull, which is this was one of my favorite 4Ks of the year. This was my top 10 4Ks. Love this release for sure. Double Indemnity was a cool release that they did for sure. Now, as you can see, the plastic salon, I have not watched this, but a lot of people said this is one of the best 4K releases of the year. You know, Malcolm X and Wally, like how could you not talk about Malcolm X and Wally? Like they shook the physical media world and landscape when they announced Wally on 4K because it was the first Disney title to enter a boutique label. So this was a very interesting and cool release that they did, and really kind of opened the doors and it opened the doors in our minds for the possibilities of what could happen if, you know, Disney started to trickle out more of their titles to other boutique labels. So really cool releases. And again, I love Criterion. They also did some cool Blu-ray releases like Miller's Crossing, which I love, Flight of the Phoenix as well. They just did some really interesting stuff, and they're consistent. Every single month, 4 or 5 new releases come out. And I mean, what can you say about Criterion? They always deliver the quality. They always deliver, you know, a bunch of cool new special features. And, you know, I'm sorry I couldn't put them up a little bit higher, but again, I don't watch everything that they put out, so I don't have that perspective, but still love the label. Now let's get into my number 6, and we'll get into I think is this our first studio? Yeah, this is our first studio entering the top 10. So coming in at number 6, and it really got tough here. Because I think that this studio put out a lot of great stuff this year. But Warner Brothers, I'm going to put at my number 6. So Warner Brothers really did a great job in 2022. They do consistent 4K upgrades. I feel like every single month we're getting new Warner Brothers announcements, and that's not stopping in 2023. You know, for their 100th anniversary, they got a lot of cool stuff. Rocky's getting ready to come out on 4K. Exorcist, Enter the Dragon. So they're just always consistent, always putting out cool new 4K releases every single month. And for the most part, they all deliver, and they're all great quality. And they also have the Warner Archive, you know, sub-label as well. They're putting out at least 2 or 3 new Blu-rays every month of some cool classic films. So they also pay attention to their older, you know, classic film catalog, which is cool. But just kind of giving you an overview of the cool stuff that they did this year. They did The Green Mile on 4K, which I thought this was an amazing release. I love this movie. This is my favorite Frank Darabont movie. I absolutely love it. I love Shawshank too, but damn, that movie's good. A Christmas Story in 4K. All these amazing Christmas 4Ks that came out just in time for the holidays. Elf on 4K, which I thought looked amazing. Christmas Vacation. This is my favorite Christmas movie. I never thought, like a couple of years ago, we would get Christmas Vacation in 4K, but we did. I just wouldn't have thought they'd give it at the time of day. But Warner Brothers, you know, they recognize that this is a popular movie. People want this movie in 4K, and they put it out. So kudos to them again. Christmas Vacation in 4K. Also, we got some of The Lost Boys. Looked amazing in 4K. Poltergeist looked amazing in 4K. And there's so many other examples. You know, they also did, you know, newer movies like The Batman, which looked incredible. But it's just always consistent, and it's always quality with Warner Brothers. So I appreciate it. I wish they would dive a little bit deeper into their back catalog and pull some other stuff out. Maybe do some more just like standard Blu-ray releases, like another studio that we'll talk about here in a second. But I'm good with Warner Brothers. They're in good graces with me. So now we have entered my top 5, and this is a boutique label that was not on my top 10 last year, and I got called out for it. And it's because I just wasn't that familiar with this label last year. Around this time. But in 2022, I definitely warmed up to them. I've made fun of them a lot for releasing trash, cult horror movies. But because this year it felt like they started to dip their toes a little bit more into, you know, the mainstream, I actually started to pay attention to them a little bit more and started looking into some of the stuff that they're doing. And there's no doubt that they offer some of the best quality of any label in the business today, and that is Vinegar Syndrome. That is right. Vinegar Syndrome comes in at my number 5. And I know you Vinegar Syndrome heads out there will be like, I can't believe you didn't put them at number 1, Ken. They're the best. It's hard to argue when you get a Vinegar Syndrome release in like Dead Heat, which came out right at the beginning of the year. This is the first Vinegar Syndrome 4K that I got. Actually, the first, I think, Vinegar Syndrome anything that I watched this year. It's hard to argue when you get a slipcover like this and you start to feel it and you feel that quality. Oh my goodness, how excellent was this release right here. And it's just like, yeah, I was hooked. Once I got the slipcovers like this, I was so hooked by Vinegar Syndrome and everything they did in 2022 that I almost signed up for the Vinegar Syndrome subscription when they just had their subscriber week, but I didn't. I came to my senses because I realized there's a lot of stuff that they put out that you're probably not going to like, Ken. But yeah, Dead Heat was a great release they did this year. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This is such a cool release. It's like a slip box, and yeah, there's just the quality and the care and the effort that they put in to their physical media packaging is just top notch. And when they do a movie like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I'm sure some people look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and they're like, oh, that movie's goofy. I don't like the movie. You know, but it's definitely a quality horror film from the 80s. It's a big horror movie that a lot of people know and love. So I was super excited for this kind of movie to get this treatment from Vinegar Syndrome. It's just such a cool release. Looks great on 4K as well. Amityville Horror, this was the big one for me because like even Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, yeah, it's a big movie, but it still falls in line with a lot of the, you know, goofier, you know, cult, exploitative, you know, horror movies that Vinegar Syndrome's kind of known for. But when they announced Amityville Horror, I was like, oh, they're starting to take themselves a little bit more serious now because this is a legitimate horror movie. This is a legitimate horror classic. Margot Kidder, Josh Brolin, like this movie is up there with The Exorcist. It's up there with The Omen as far as like supernatural horror films from back in the day. It came out in 1979. This is a great masterpiece horror film, one of the greatest of all times. And Vinegar Syndrome put this out and gave it this treatment right here with this awesome slipcover. So this really turned the tide for me and just my perception of Vinegar Syndrome as a label. I was like, if they can start doing stuff like this, and this is a former Scream Factory release, so if they're starting to, we're already seeing it right now with From Beyond's getting ready to come out in 4K from them. And also Sidekicks, which I'm super excited about. Vinegar Syndrome, I'm just really paying attention and honed in on right now. But they're starting to take these titles from Scream Factory. So if they start peeking into their back catalog, the Scream Factory, all the stuff they put out because they lost the rights, and start grabbing some of those and putting them out in 4K, like that's a win for Vinegar Syndrome. And people are going to really start paying attention to this label a lot more. I know they have tons of fans. You know, the fans of Vinegar Syndrome, they are rabid. They will buy anything that Vinegar Syndrome puts out because they treat their customers and their fans so well. With just these incredible releases. Like if you order straight from Vinegar Syndrome, this shit ain't coming in damaged. It ain't like Scream Factory when you order from them and then you got, you know, your slipcover slightly damaged. This stuff is coming in pristine condition. The many times I've ordered from them in 2022, I ordered from them probably at least 6 or 7 times. Never got even a slight bit of damage. So they care about the collector and they care about their fans. So I appreciate that about Vinegar Syndrome for sure. And also, to top it all off, Roadhouse on 4K, are you kidding me? This was my #1 4K of the year. This looked absolutely incredible. So yeah, Vinegar Syndrome is awesome, and I'm definitely paying attention to them a lot more than I was this time last year. They're coming in at my #5. So let's get into my #4, and we're going to talk about Sony. We're going to talk about Sony. Sony did some really great work in 2022. And these top 4 that I'm getting ready to talk about, like I switched these around so much when I was finalizing this list. And I think what it came down to with Sony is they just didn't have the quantity. They definitely have the quality. Like a Sony release, like a 4K release, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, like this looked amazing on 4K. Like this is one of the best 4K transfers of 2022. And I didn't expect that from a movie like I Know What You Did Last Summer. But they're also doing like alternate slipcover artwork as well. Like you have the classic poster right there. And you don't see a lot of studio labels doing that kind of stuff. They're also doing new special features on their releases. So I think that Sony, more so than all the other studio labels, is really starting to see where the collector market is going. And they're going towards those boutique labels because of the packaging, because of the special features. And Sony's like, we need to start getting in on this stuff and really start making our stuff feel special as well. And they're starting to do that, you know, with releases like this, new special features, deleted scenes in that release. Also, Starship Troopers, they remastered this one in Dolby Vision. Looks absolutely amazing. Also, new special features in there. And then, you know, Fright Night on 4K. This looked amazing on 4K with this Steelbook release. Really nice Steelbook right here from Sony. And tons tons of new special features in this one. They've got a documentary. This is a 3-disc set. Like, I feel like other labels will put out, you know, 4K, there'll only be 1 disc and there'll be like maybe 1 special feature on it. But Sony's putting out releases like this with 3 discs. Like, this is a Scream Factory level release. I know some people were disappointed that Sony was doing this and not Arrow Video, which I think was the rumor. But Sony just showed them all. It's like, look, we can do this stuff too. We can handle our own catalog. And they absolutely did Fright Night justice because it looked amazing. And this is great packaging right here as well. But then they're also doing cool box sets like this Columbia, Sony Pictures Classic, not Columbia, the Columbia Classics Volume 3 they did as well. I didn't bring that one over here, but that was a great set. But also this 30 years of Sony Pictures Classics that they did. This is 11 films in the set, 11 4Ks. So you open it up. And Sony's been doing this with their box sets for a long time now. Just the packaging on their box sets is incredible. You open this up, and all of them have individual slipcovers, which is super awesome and cool. All of them have individual artwork, which is awesome. I'll go ahead and pull out this SLC Punk because it is my favorite as far as the artwork. I need to dig into this box set, but that artwork is amazing on there. So Sony, more so than any other studio, I think right now, is really understanding, well, I guess we'll talk about another one here in a second, but is really understanding where the collector market is going and just the value of releasing their stuff with cool packaging. Like, just releasing it on 4K with a slipcover, like, that's not enough anymore. Like, that's what Warner Brothers is doing. But they're putting their stuff out in these nice box sets. They're doing alternate artwork on their slipcovers. They're doing cool steel books. And I really think that, and they're also doing catalog Blu-rays as well. Yeah, they're a little expensive when they come out, but they're also doing the catalog Blu-rays. But I just think that they're doing a great job. Sony, I guess more so than anybody, of really like making their stuff feel almost boutique. So yeah, I gotta give it to Sony. All right, let's get into the top 3. I've got so many releases. So this whole stack is dedicated to my number 3. And my number 3 is what my number 1 was last year. So it actually moved down a little bit, but Paramount, it's really hard not to talk about Paramount. They have some stumbles for sure. They have some slip-ups. They have some stuff that make us angry with all the re-releases and stuff. I addressed all this in my controversies video, so go check that out. But there's no denying that Paramount, they care about physical media. They care about their catalog, and they care about putting their stuff out for the consumer, for the collector, for the movie fans that don't want these films lost in film history. They care about their back catalog, and that is apparent in all the stuff that I'm getting ready to show you. Of course, they did The Godfather in 4K this year, which was an absolutely incredible release. But just all of these catalog Blu-rays that they put out, and there's so many more. They're doing at least like 3 or 4 a month. That they did Top Secret on Blu-ray for the first time, Harlem Nights on Blu-ray for the first time, The Weatherman on Blu-ray for the first time, Orange County, which is a comedy I love, on Blu-ray for the first time, and Coneheads. I'll keep talking about Coneheads, but on Blu-ray for the first time with Coneheads, and just absolute standout 4K discs for their new movies like Top Gun Maverick. Like, this looked like this was a top, a lot of people would say this is the best 4K release of 2022 with this Top Gun Maverick 4K by Paramount. So just doing great work there as well. But then also with their Paramount Presents line, and this year they introduced 4K with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, with Blue Hawaii, which I thought Blue Hawaii was another, like, this was in my top 5 4K disc of 2022. So this was a great release by them. But they're still doing Blu-rays in the Paramount Presents line. I know it's confusing, but they're still doing it. And cool releases like Back to the Beach right here. I just watched this movie the other night. It's got Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello. It's got Lori Loughlin, Pee Wee Herman's in this movie. It's a really fun movie, and I'm glad that they put this one out because I had never really heard of this movie, and I got to watch it. And it's a fun 80s movie. They're also doing cool, like, steelbooks with slip covers, kind of like Paramount. I didn't bring the Event Horizon over, but that's a cool one. But this Ring steelbook is really cool. Yeah, it's just a Blu-ray, and yeah, they're going to probably put out a 4K in a year and make you buy it. But it's a cool steelbook right here with the Ring. And also Scream 2, this steelbook is amazing. It's one of my favorite steelbooks of 2022. And they're also doing cool box sets like the Paranormal Activity Collector set, which is like boutique level quality right here. I guess I shouldn't have said what I said about Sony because they're not the only ones that's trying to cater to the collector market. And again, we're going to talk about another one here in a second, but Paramount's doing it as well. They're like, I'm not letting Scream Factory get the Paranormal Activity franchise. We're going to do this ourselves. They saw what Scream Factory did with their franchise, Friday the 13th, and they're like, we can do this ourselves. And they did the Paranormal Activity 7 film collection, also actually 8 films because it includes a documentary. And this is a great set, and they put this out at an affordable price of $55. If Scream Factory would have done this box set, it would have been at least $80 for the Paranormal Activity box set. So yeah, Paramount, look, they just, again, they have stumbles, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I know people weren't happy with Saturday Night Fever, even though I thought that was a great release. So they definitely have their stumbles. and issues, and that's why they're not coming in at number 1. They're coming in at number 3. But there's no discounting like the quantity, like the stuff that they put out, all the Blu-rays, all the Steelbooks, all the 4Ks that they put out. The Paramount Presents, like they're always doing stuff for physical media. They care about physical media. They care about film preservation. So you got to give it to Paramount there. But let's get into my number 2. And guys, I did a whole video on this studio, so you know how I feel about them. But we got to talk about Lionsgate coming in at my number 2. They're just doing such incredible work. And again, we talked about Sony. We talked about Paramount. Catering to the collector, really starting to hone in on what the collectors want, because they're realizing that this stuff isn't mainstream anymore. It's not about just the random guy that walks into Walmart and buys the Blu-ray or buys the DVD. Most of those people are streaming now. They are catering to the collector, the people that still buy physical media. So they're releasing cool steelbooks like Reservoir Dogs that really attracts the attention of the collector. And I mean, these steelbooks are just top notch. Nothing tops these steelbooks right now. Like Lionsgate is killing it with the steelbooks, but also offering them at affordable prices. Again, I did a whole video on this. Go check it out. I'll try to link it up there somewhere. But yeah, the Reservoir Dogs steelbook, but also the transfers, like the quality of Lionsgate. Like we talked about Paramount and all the stuff that they're doing for the collector and all the stuff that they're putting out, but the quality isn't there sometimes. The quality is usually always there with Lionsgate. They're always doing great work with their releases. This Reservoir Dogs was one of the best 4Ks of the year again. Also, Highlander looked incredible, and this had art cards in it. It had new special features and all that stuff. Like, this was a great release. The slipcover's awesome. Great steelbook as well. I didn't get it, but we also got the Vestron Video Line that Lionsgate does. These are like boutique quality releases. Like, this looks like something Screen Factory would put out with the cool artwork, and you know, you got the special features and stuff on the back. Only with this one, you know, you get a digital code as well, and it's an affordable price. It's not $36.99. It's $11.99. So you got to give them credit for this stuff. And they did that Silent Night, Deadly Night 3-film collection for $11.99. It's ridiculous. They're also doing cool, you know, new exclusive Blu-ray 4K exclusives at Walmart, like the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which was a great exclusive that they put out. Also Pearl, so they handle all the A24 stuff, and all that's amazing. You know, this Pearl slipcover is awesome. So Lionsgate, like, I got to give it to them. They're always doing really cool stuff. They also pay attention to their catalog as well, but just with the Steelbooks and the 4K upgrades that look amazing, and the Blu-rays and the A24 films and the Vestron Video Line, Lionsgate to me just blows the doors out of all the other studios at this point. They really just understand that, you know, this stuff shouldn't cost an arm and a leg. You shouldn't have to go broke to collect physical media. It's just incredible what Lionsgate's doing, and that's why they come in at my number 2. And now, guys, it's time for my number 1 studio or boutique label of 2022. And if you're paying attention, you probably know I haven't covered this label yet, so you probably know what it is. But we got to talk about Kino Lorber. I'm just so for one, impressed by Kino Lorber, but also just so proud of Kino Lorber and just how far they've come over the past few years. I feel like I've been watching their evolution unfold, because I started the Physical Media Report back in 2020, and I've been doing it for almost 3 years. And I remember I didn't know much about Kino Lorber before I started doing it, but then I just started to realize, I was like, Kino Lorber, like, there were weeks when nothing was coming out, and Kino Lorber was putting out 5 new Blu-rays, and they kind of gained a reputation on my show as being the most consistent label in the business, and they've absolutely upheld that throughout the years. And then they got into 4K, and ever since they've gotten into 4K, it's just consistency, doing at least 3 or 4 new 4Ks a month, and the quality is there. Like, you don't usually get a Kino release in 4K that is not quality, that doesn't look great. But let's highlight some of these amazing 4K releases that they released in 2022. So guys, you got to give them credit. Like, the output is insane what they're doing. But you got Paths of Glory right here, which I love this release. In the Heat of the Night, which has 2 bonus films on it as well. This is a great 4K release. You got Some Like It Hot. They also did, I don't know if I have it here, they also did The Apartment. Yeah, for a few dollars more. A Fistful of Dollars, which look great on 4K. Touch of Evil. Like, I just picked up a bunch of new 4Ks that they did because it's so hard to keep up. In Bruges. They did. They also did The Killing. They did The Usual Suspects. They did Mystery Men, which was such a cool release. I was so excited for this one. Tropic Thunder, I was so excited for as well, that they did in 4K. Dressed to Kill. The Apartment. Like, just so many new 4K. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like, they were on fire all year, every single month. you had a new, at least 2 or 3 or 4, in some cases I think 6 came out one month, but you had all these new Kino Lorber 4Ks to look forward to. So like they were on top of their game like never before. And it looks like going into 2023, you know, we got Death Wish coming out this month. We got The Italian Job. It doesn't look like they're slowing down. Like they are putting stuff out at a rapid rate, and you got to give them credit for that. They're doing great work. And Man on the Moon, they not in addition to all these 4Ks, they're putting out like all these other Blu-rays a month too. Like they're doing like 15 to 20 new releases every month. Like who else is doing that? Maybe Paramount's have months where they've done like 15 or 20 releases, but like it's not every month. Kino Lorber, it feels like every single month. 15 to 20 new releases, you know, 5 new 4Ks, 15 new Blu-rays. Like they're putting TV shows out like Kolchak the Night Stalker, The Night Gallery. Like they're making so many people excited for physical media. So I have to give it to Kino Lorber. I think they were pretty high on my list last year, maybe like number 4 or 5. But I remember saying last year, I was like, there's a good chance with everything that Kino Lorber's got on their slate for 2022 that they make it to my number 1 in 2022. And they absolutely did. Kino Lorber is on fire, and I feel like it's a label that I don't mention enough on this channel, and it's because you don't really hear a lot of problems from them. They stay quiet, they stay consistent, and the output is always there. They have great sales as well. I got to give them credit for their sales. They do at least 4 or 5 sales a year, and they're always great. So you can get on there, you can get their 4Ks for $14.99. In some cases, like $12.99 for a new 4K. You can get their Blu-rays for like $5 or $7 or $8 or $10. Like just incredible deals. You can still get them with a slipcover. Like they are just doing phenomenal work. You know, they have a respect, they have a reverence for the classic films. They also do some of the newer ones. Again, not totally new, but movies like Man on the Moon. This was such a cool release. So I gotta give Kino Lorber top honors here. Like I gotta give him props. Like I was going back and forth so much, and when I really started thinking about it, I was like, Kino Lorber, we just gotta give it to him. We gotta give it to Kino Lorber, the best studio and boutique label of 2022. So with that, guys, that is my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I know that everybody's gonna have different opinions, so leave those opinions in the comment section below. I'm always welcome to everyone's opinions. Like I said, we all see things differently. We all consume physical media differently. Like a label that you love, that you buy everything for. I mean, I buy very many releases for, like Criterion. So we all have different perspectives. Leave your perspective and your opinion in the comment section below. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Like this video, guys. Definitely like the video. Comment down below. Turn on the bell notifications and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.